Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio with a special guest this week, Gill Alexander. You might have seen him on Twitter. You can follow him at Beating the Book. You might have heard of him on a podcast, the Beating the Book series. You got like a whole franchise of podcasts, buddy. Thanks for being in studio with us. And for the listeners that, might have been under a rock for the last, 4 or 5 years we've been doing this podcast with you, but tell us about all the podcasts you have, and save that last one for the end.
Yes, which one would that be?
Yeah, one that I like a lot.
Thank you for having me, first of all. I appreciate it. It's very kind of you.
No problem.
It is called the Beating the Book podcast, as you say. We've done this for about 6 years now. So it really was like the first sports betting podcast that I know of besides ESPN's. It wasn't called that initially. It was a different name. But it is Beating the Book, and it's primarily football and baseball, as you know, and it's one thing to do a baseball podcast. I just did my first football one yesterday, season win totals and a fantasy football. And what takes a baseball podcast 2 weeks in terms of listenership, the football podcast, equals that within 1 day. So it's that time of year, and we couldn't be more excited to do the football podcast, which is where you come in.
Yes, you have a little podcast that's referred to as the NFL Megapod.
Yes.
It comes out every Thursday during the football season. We've been doing this, as you said, forever, it seems like. And it's a very unique formula that you come up with, and I don't know if that was by design or it just fell into place that way. We have 2 regular guests, and yours truly is one of those guests, and I appreciate you having me on that each and every week. And our buddy Gianni, Ace, initials, parts, as you say, he comes from
the sports betting diaspora.
Yeah, and but it's great to have the mix, the 2 guys, as you say.
Yeah.
You always say the anchors of the show, which definitely any side of a show that I'm on is anchored down with my size. But what's nice is you bring in a third person. You have the 2 regulars, and then you bring in a third person, which you bring in personalities from all over the sports betting, landscape.
It's really humbling. I mean, it really is. You're being modest, but you and Ace, our friend Gianni, are really the pillars of the show, and you guys are the stars of the show for real. And you come at it from a situational angle. This is week-to-week NFL against the spread or totals. Ace has his own thing. He's got special access to certain things. And that rotating guest can be anywhere from the super analytical side of things, Rufus Peabody, Warren Sharp, all the way to folks in media who have been kind enough. Nick Mackay came on the Megapod back in the day. It's so great, it's humbling, and not only is it really like a lot of information, it really is good information, and you and Ace have had a great record on the podcast, but we have a ball doing it. We have a lot of fun.
It is definitely fun. We do it very early in the mornings.
Yes. Maybe 5 minutes later than we're supposed to.
It's probably a good thing that we are just doing audio and not visual,
yes.
Because we have discussed some attire different times during the season. What
lucky if we're wearing pants.
Yeah, when we do it, but it's a great time. And then the formula for the show, not only we breaking down we go backwards. We do the Monday night football game. We do the marquee games, then we do the Sunday night football game, break it down. And then each guy gets to do a best bet, of the week, any game on the card. And then you ask a couple tricky questions at the end of the show each week.
Tricky.
And tell the listeners what they get with that one.
Well, first of all, we do it in reverse order, as you say, Monday night, Sunday night, and then picks of Sunday's games, because we do want people, if they've not gotten to it, Sunday afternoon before Sunday night game or Monday night game, maybe they're chasing, I don't know, but at least they can listen to it at the top of the show. But the 2 questions at the end are simply, which is the big favorite, and we define that by a touchdown or more, most likely to lose outright that week, and we go around the horn and get that answer. And the other one is, refresh my memory, what is the other one?
The ugly duckling, the game you want nothing to do with.
What is the game on that week's slate that you wouldn't bet with other people's money? What's the game you just want no part of? And I think that those 2 questions sort of add context to the week, and you don't hear those answered very often elsewhere. So I think we do a good job with that.
And we always say, when you're betting, you're laying, 11 to 10, and if you get somebody to even avoid a loser, not necessarily give them a winner, but if something you say on a game that you want no part of, and it takes somebody off of betting a game that they might have, and they look at it, you're saving more, because when you save a loser, you're saving 110 instead of
right.
So that's.
I think it's incumbent upon us to say, in case folks miss this, is that the content is free, the show is free, it doesn't cost anything, and you're right. I think. You're not, it's not about listening to everything Marco says or listening to everything Ace or our guest says and saying, okay, well, they're the gospel. I think it's fascinating from an informational standpoint, because you do come at it from different angles. And the one thing that I think is undeniable through the years, and this sports betting, people come at it from different approaches. I work with a guy who's the most analytical guy in the world. He skins the cat one way, but there's many ways to skin the cat. You are really on the opposite end of the spectrum, and sometimes you two arrive at the same conclusion. But I think it's that narrative that is very interesting. At least I find it very interesting, and I think the psychology of it is. And
it's become it's almost a cult following. When you're an hour late putting it up, Twitter goes nuts. So don't be late, buddy, because my timeline just gets flooded. But we do really appreciate all the people that have loyally followed that show for the years, and they are very appreciative of what we do. He is Gill Alexander. Follow him on Twitter at Beating the Book. Check out the podcast. You can get all of Gill's podcasts. We put them up at our site at WagerTalk as well. You can download them from iTunes. He's got all the fancy stuff. And, of course, he'll put the links up the minute they're available on Twitter. And, guys, hey, if you're new to WagerTalk, after your first purchase of $12 or more, you will get a $50 sign-up bonus. Just email support@WagerTalk and put your username in the email. We'll put $50 in your account within 24 hours. It's yours to spend however you want. That's just our way of saying thank you for joining the WagerTalk family. We'll be back with more here at WagerTalk.com.